Your mind is trapped in an illusion, and it's controlling your emotion. Have you ever felt like no matter what you do, you keep running into the same struggles, the same emotions, and the same cycles? Maybe it's the constant stress of trying to get ahead, the fear of failure, or the endless loop of overthinking that keeps you up at night. It feels like you're fighting an invisible force, something you can't quite escape. But what if I told you that force isn't real? That the struggle, the frustration, the emotional weight you carry every day, it's not happening to you. It's happening inside you. And it's not because life is against you. It's because your mind is running a program designed to keep you exactly where you are. Your mind repeats the same thoughts, fuels the same fears, and locks you in patterns of emotional reaction, not because they serve you, but because they are familiar. Your brain isn't built for truth. It's built for survival. And to survive, it clings to comfort, predictability, and control, even if that means keeping you trapped in stress, self-doubt, and frustration. But here's the truth. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the observer behind them. And once you realize that, everything changes. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will shatter the illusion that's been controlling you your entire life. 1. The hidden barrier why you keep feeling stuck. Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you try, life seems to keep pulling you back into the same emotional patterns? You wake up with the best intentions, determined to be more focused, more positive, more in control. But by the end of the day, you find yourself back where you started, feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, or stuck in the same loops of stress and overthinking. This isn't random. It's not bad luck. It's not even a lack of effort. It's something much deeper, something built into the very structure of your mind. Your mind isn't designed to make you happy. It's designed to keep you safe. And to your brain, safe doesn't mean free, it means familiar. It means repeating the same thoughts, chasing the same desires, and reacting to the same fears over and over again, because that's what it knows. Even if those thoughts make you anxious, even if those reactions cause you pain, your mind clings to them because they feel predictable. And to your brain, predictability is survival. Think about it. How many times have you tried to change? Whether it's breaking a bad habit, stepping outside your comfort zone, or letting go of past regrets, only to feel this invisible resistance pulling you back. That's your mind's safety mechanism kicking in. It convinces you that change is risky, that stepping into the unknown is dangerous, and that staying in the same cycle, no matter how frustrating, is the better option. And this is where most people get trapped. They assume that because a thought appears in their mind, it must be true. They believe that because an emotion rises within them, it must define who they are. But here's the reality. Your thoughts are not facts. Your emotions are not commands. They are simply patterns your mind has been reinforcing for years, even decades. The problem is, when you don't recognize this, you become a prisoner of your own mind. You believe the thoughts that say, "I'm not good enough. I'll never change. This is just who I am." You let fear dictate your choices. You let doubt keep you from taking action. And the worst part, you don't even realize it's happening. This is the hidden barrier, the invisible force that keeps you stuck. It's not the outside world holding you back. It's not your circumstances, your past, or even other people. It's your own mind, filtering reality through the lens of old beliefs, outdated fears, and emotional conditioning. And as long as you let it run on autopilot, you will continue living the same story over and over again. But here's the good news. You don't have to stay trapped. The first step to breaking free is seeing the illusion for what it is. The moment you stop identifying with your thoughts and start observing them, you take back control. You begin to realize that just because your mind says something doesn't mean it's true. Just because an emotion arises doesn't mean you have to obey it. The real question is, are you ready to stop playing by the mind's rules? Because the second you do, the world opens up in ways you never imagined. 2. The invisible program, how your mind controls you. Imagine waking up in a massive maze. You don't remember how you got there. You don't recall choosing to be there. All you know is that you've been inside it for as long as you can remember. At first, you try to find a way out. You explore different paths, searching for an exit. But every time you get close to escaping, something happens. Something pulls your attention away. A flashing light in the distance, a loud noise behind you, a sudden thought about something completely unrelated. You turn your head for just a second, and when you look back, you've lost your direction. That's exactly what your mind does to you every single day. Your mind doesn't want you to break free. It wants to keep you busy. It fills your head with distractions, fears, desires, and doubts, not because they serve you, but because they keep you inside the maze. Every time you get close to stepping outside your old patterns, it throws something new at you, a problem to solve, a worry to dwell on, a memory to relive, a craving to chase. And just like that, you forget what you were trying to escape in the first place. Think about it. How many times have you had a moment of clarity, a realization that you need to change, that you want to live differently, that you see the illusion for what it is, only to find yourself, hours or days later, slipping right back into your usual routine? It's not because you're weak. It's not because you don't want it badly enough. It's because your mind is running a program designed to prevent you from seeing beyond it. This program was installed in you from the moment you were born. It was built by everything you've been told, everything you've experienced, and everything you've absorbed from the world around you. It dictates how you react, what you believe, and even how you feel. And the scariest part? You rarely question it. Your mind convinces you that your fears are rational, that your limitations are real, that your emotions define you. It makes you believe that you need to chase external things, money, validation, success, to feel complete. It keeps you occupied with endless thought loops, never allowing you the silence to step back and see the maze for what it is. But here's the truth. You are not the maze. You are not the thoughts running in circles inside it. You are the observer, the one watching it all happen. So, how do you escape? The first step is simple. Realize you are being controlled. The next time you feel a wave of doubt, a surge of fear, or a spiral of overthinking, don't engage with it, observe it. Watch how your mind reacts. Notice how it pulls you toward the same patterns. Recognize how it distracts you the moment you start questioning it. Because the second you see the program running, it loses its power. The real battle isn't against the world. It's not even against your circumstances. It's against the invisible program keeping you asleep. And once you wake up to that truth, you'll never see reality the same way again. 3. The illusion of free will. Are you really in control of your emotions? You probably believe you are in control of your decisions. You think you choose what to do, what to think, and how to feel. But take a moment to question that. Have you ever tried to stop thinking just for a few seconds, only to realize that thoughts keep coming completely on their own? Have you ever told yourself to stop feeling anxious, stop being angry, stop overthinking, only to find that no matter how much you want to, your mind keeps pulling you back? That's because your thoughts and emotions aren't entirely yours. They appear on their own, shaped by your past experiences, subconscious fears, and conditioned responses. And without realizing it, you spend most of your life simply reacting to whatever thought pops into your head, whatever emotion arises in the moment. The truth is, you don't choose most of your thoughts. They happen to you. And yet, we assume that because they're happening inside our minds, they must be us. But if you were truly in control, wouldn't you be able to stop your negative emotions whenever you wanted? Wouldn't you be able to quiet your thoughts at will? The reason you can't is because your mind is running on autopilot. From the moment you were born, your brain has been absorbing everything: your culture, your environment, your family, your past experiences. Every reaction you have today, whether it's frustration, fear, or doubt, isn't something you consciously chose. It's something that was programmed into you through repetition. Think about it. If you grew up being told you weren't good enough, your mind will generate self-doubt automatically, even when there's no reason for it. If you've been hurt in the past, your mind will trigger fear and hesitation before you even have a chance to process what's happening. If you've been conditioned to believe that success equals happiness, your mind will make you chase achievements endlessly, never allowing you to feel content. This is why emotional control feels impossible, because most of your emotions are not chosen. They're triggered by unconscious patterns you don't even realize are running. But here's the part no one tells you: you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness watching them. Right now, your mind is probably trying to argue with this. It's saying, "Of course, I control my emotions. I decide how I feel." But if that were true, you'd never struggle with stress. You'd never get stuck in cycles of anxiety, frustration, or sadness. You'd simply choose to feel good, and that would be the end of it. But emotions don't work like that. They arise automatically, just like thoughts. You don't control when anger flares up. You don't control when doubt creeps in. You don't control when sadness washes over you. These things just happen. But here's the good news. You may not control what thoughts or emotions appear, but you do control whether or not you engage with them. And that changes everything. The moment you stop identifying with your emotions, the moment you stop believing that every thought is you, you take back your power. You stop being a puppet of your own mind. You stop reacting out of habit. You stop being controlled by forces you never consciously chose. This is the first step to true emotional freedom, recognizing that you are not your mind. You are the one observing it. And the moment you fully understand that, the illusion of control shatters. 4. The truth hidden in plain sight, your mind's biggest trick. If the truth is so simple, why don't more people see it? Why do most of us stay stuck in cycles of stress, overthinking, and emotional turmoil, never realizing that we're the ones keeping ourselves trapped? The answer is distraction. Your mind is a master of deception. It doesn't want you to wake up. It doesn't want you to realize that you're not your thoughts, not your emotions, not the stories running through your head. Because if you did, everything would change. So instead, it keeps you focused on everything except the present moment. Think about how much time you spend mentally somewhere else. Your mind constantly pulls you into the past, replaying old mistakes, regrets, and what-ifs. It reminds you of things you should have done differently, things that hurt you. And when it's not dragging you into the past, it's shoving you into the future, worrying about things that haven't happened yet, obsessing over what could go wrong, planning every move like your survival depends on it. Then there's the external noise, social media, entertainment, news, meaningless goals, endless to-do lists. All of it designed to keep you occupied, to keep your mind busy, so you never stop long enough to question what's actually happening. But here's the truth. Reality doesn't exist in the past. It doesn't exist in the future. It exists only right now. And your mind will do anything to keep you from seeing that. Why? Because the present moment is the key to freedom. If you were to stop right now, completely stop, and just exist for a moment, without chasing a thought, without reacting to an emotion, without running toward the next distraction, something incredible would happen. You would see that beneath all the noise, beneath all the thinking and worrying and analyzing, you are still here. You are not the thoughts. You are not the emotions. You are the awareness witnessing them. And in that moment, the illusion begins to break. Because when you stop listening to the constant mental chatter, you realize that most of it is pointless. Most of it is just old conditioning fears that no longer serve you, stories that were never yours to begin with, patterns of thought designed to keep you in the same place. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's when you begin to take back control. How to break free the action you must take now. The next time your mind pulls you into the past, notice it. The next time it drags you into the future, become aware of it. The next time it tries to distract you with some urgent, meaningless worry, pause. Don't react. Don't fight it. Just observe. Because the second you see the pattern, you weaken its grip. Right now, your mind is trying to keep you from experiencing the only thing that's real, the present moment. It's filling your head with arguments, doubts, distractions. But if you truly want to break free, you have to be willing to step out of the illusion. And that starts with a simple question. Are you going to keep following the mind's script, or are you ready to wake up? 5. The first step to breaking the illusion, taking back control of your mind. Right now, your mind is trying to control the narrative. Even as you read this, it's creating thoughts, judging, analyzing, trying to find something to hold on to. Maybe it's telling you, I already know this. Or maybe it's resisting, saying, this doesn't apply to me. That's not an accident. Your mind doesn't want you to wake up. It wants to keep you engaged, distracted, and trapped in the same patterns that have ruled your life for years. But if you're still here, if you're still reading this, then a part of you is ready to step outside of that illusion. So how do you do it? Step 1. Stop fighting. Start observing. Most people try to control their thoughts by fighting them. They try to silence negative emotions, suppress overthinking, or force themselves to think positive. But that's not how you escape the illusion. The real key is not fighting your thoughts, but watching them. Right now, close your eyes for a few seconds and just observe your mind. What's happening? Thoughts are coming and going, right? Some are random. Some are about the past. Some are about the future. Some are completely pointless. Now, ask yourself, who is watching these thoughts? That's you, the real you. Not the voice in your head, not the emotions pulling you in every direction, but the silent observer behind it all. And the moment you see that, something shifts. Step 2. Break the automatic reaction cycle. Your emotions are just signals, temporary energy passing through you. But most people don't treat them that way. Instead, they react. They let fear control their actions. They let doubt stop them from trying. They let anger dictate their words. The next time a strong emotion rises, whether it's stress, anxiety, or frustration, pause. Don't push it away. Don't feed it. Just notice it. The moment you do this, you take your first step toward emotional freedom. Because instead of being trapped by your emotions, you start observing them. And when you observe instead of react, the illusion weakens. Step 3. Stop letting thoughts control you. Imagine sitting on a beach, watching waves roll in. Some waves are big, some are small. Some crash loudly, some fade away quietly. Now, imagine that those waves are your thoughts. Most people spend their entire lives getting tossed around by these waves, believing they are the waves. But you are not the waves. You are the one sitting on the shore, watching them. Once you understand this, you stop believing every thought your mind throws at you. You stop getting attached to emotions. You stop reacting to every impulse. This is the first step to real freedom. Your turn, break the illusion today. Your mind will try to convince you that this is just another idea, just another thing to think about before going back to your routine. But this is more than that. This is the doorway to seeing reality as it truly is. So now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever caught yourself being trapped in your own mind? Have you noticed how your thoughts pull you in different directions? Drop a comment and share your experience. Let's start a conversation, because the moment you speak about it, the illusion begins to lose its power. And if this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. You never know who might be ready to wake up. 6. The thought loop. How your mind keeps you stuck. Have you ever noticed how certain thoughts just keep coming back no matter how much you try to ignore them? The same worries, the same doubts, the same internal conflicts. It's like a song on repeat in your head, looping endlessly, dragging you back into the same emotional patterns over and over again. Why does this happen? Why, even when you recognize a thought is unhelpful or destructive, does it still have power over you? Because your mind isn't designed for freedom. It's designed for predictability. Your brain's number one priority is to keep you safe. And to your brain, safe means familiar. It doesn't care if a thought is painful, stressful, or self-destructive. If it's a thought pattern you've had before, your mind will repeat it. Because repetition equals safety in the eyes of your subconscious. This is why people get trapped in cycles of negative thinking. It's not that they want to feel anxious, doubtful, or insecure. It's that their brain has been wired to replay the same emotional reactions over and over, simply because it's what it knows. Your brain is running an old script. Imagine your mind as a computer running a program in the background. This program was installed years ago, maybe when you were a child, maybe through past experiences, maybe from the environment around you. If you were told you weren't good enough, your mind will replay self-doubt every time you try to step outside your comfort zone. If you were hurt in the past, your mind will trigger fear whenever you get close to being vulnerable. If you've experienced failure, your mind will whisper, "What if it happens again?" before you even take a step forward. And the worst part? You don't even realize the program is running. You assume these thoughts are you. You assume these emotions are real. But they're just old scripts your brain is playing on autopilot. Breaking the loop, the key to mental freedom. So, how do you break free from this cycle? How do you stop these thoughts from controlling you? The answer is not to fight them, not to suppress them, not to distract yourself with temporary relief. The answer is to see the loop for what it is. The next time a familiar negative thought appears, don't engage with it. Don't try to push it away. Don't argue with it. Don't analyze it. Just watch it. Notice how your mind tries to hook you into the same reaction. Notice how it pulls you in, making the thought feel urgent, important, or even true. But instead of following it, take a step back and simply observe. Because the moment you stop reacting, something incredible happens. The loop begins to lose power. Your brain only keeps running these programs because you keep feeding them. Every time you emotionally react, you reinforce the pattern. But the second you stop engaging, your mind starts to realize, wait, maybe this thought isn't necessary anymore. And that's when the cycle begins to break. Your mind is not your master, you are. The biggest lie your brain has ever told you is that you have no control over your thoughts, that you are stuck with them, that the emotions they trigger are inevitable. But you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness behind them. And once you realize that, you no longer have to be controlled by the same old patterns. So, the next time your mind tries to drag you into another loop of self-doubt, overthinking, or fear, do I want to play this game again? Because the moment you see the game, you can finally stop playing. 7. The ego's defense mechanism, why your mind resists change. The moment you start waking up when you begin questioning your thoughts, breaking out of old patterns, and seeing reality more clearly, something strange happens. Your mind starts fighting back. Suddenly, doubts creep in. This is nonsense. This won't work for me. I've heard this before. I already know this. A voice inside your head tries to convince you that everything you're realizing is either useless, impossible, or not worth your time. That voice, that's your ego fighting for its survival. The ego, the identity you think, is you. Your ego isn't just a concept, it's the mental construct of who you think you are. It's made up of your beliefs, your opinions, your past experiences, your sense of identity. And for years, maybe even decades, it has built a version of you that feels solid, unchangeable, and real. But here's the problem. Your ego is not you. It's just a collection of mental stories, stories your mind tells itself to create a sense of self. And when you start questioning those stories, when you begin to break free from old thought patterns and emotional cycles, your ego feels threatened. Because if you are not your thoughts, if you are not your emotions, if you are not the labels you've carried for years, then who are you? This is the moment where most people turn back. The ego panics. It tells them, this is scary. Stop thinking about this. Go back to normal. And most people listen. They let fear pull them back into their comfort zone, back into their old patterns, back into the illusion. Your mind will create every excuse to keep you stuck. When you start changing, your mind doesn't just resist it, fights with everything it has. It will throw doubt, distraction, fear, and excuses at you. I don't have time for this right now. This isn't practical in real life. I'll work on this later. This is just the way I am. I've tried before, and nothing changed. These thoughts don't come from logic. They come from fear, the ego's fear of losing control. Because once you wake up, once you start observing instead of reacting, your ego loses power. And it does not want that to happen. The illusion of comfort vs. the reality of freedom. Most people stay trapped in their mental patterns, not because they love them, but because they are familiar. Your ego would rather keep you stuck in a comfortable lie than allow you to step into an uncomfortable truth. But here's what no one tells you. Freedom is on the other side of discomfort. At first, seeing through the ego's tricks feels unsettling. It's like stepping outside into bright sunlight after being in a dark room for years. You squint. You feel disoriented. Part of you wants to run back inside. But if you stay, if you let yourself adjust, you realize something powerful. You were never a prison. You were never the walls. You were always free. Will you let the ego win? Or will you step into something greater? Right now, your mind might be telling you to scroll away, to forget this, to move on to the next distraction. That's the ego talking. But you have a choice. You can listen to the voice that wants to keep you asleep, or you can take the first step toward waking up. The question is, which will you choose?